Hello, and welcome to day 17 of A Wrinkle in Time. So I don't have a special outfit on today, but I thought since it's such a beautiful day, I would do the read aloud from my backyard garden. So today's focus is on predicting the solution. So we're almost to the end of the book. The main problem in the book is that Meg, Charles Wallace, Calvin, and Mr. Murray all have to fight it and the black thing to keep it from taking over the earth. So what I want you to do today is predict what you think the solution will be to the story. And you'll want to explain in your response exactly why you think that solution is going to happen. And remember, not all books have a happy ending. So I'm going to pick up where I left off yesterday. Charles Wallace, Meg cried. What are they doing about Charles Wallace? We don't know what it's doing to him or making him do. Please, so please help us. Yes, yes, little one. Of course we will help you. A meeting is in session right now to study what is best to do. We've never before been able to talk to anyone who has managed to escape from a dark planet, so although your father is blaming himself for everything that has happened, we feel that he must be quite an extraordinary person to get out of Camazotz with you at all. But the little boy, and I understand that he is a very special, very important little boy. Ah, my child, you must accept that this will not be easy. To go back through the black thing, back to Camazotz? I don't know. I don't know. But father left him, Meg said. He's going to bring him back. He can't just abandon Charles Wallace. The beast's communication suddenly became crisp. Nobody said anything about abandoning anybody. That is not our way. But we know that just because we want something does not mean that we will get what we want. And we still do not know what to do. And we cannot allow you in your present state to do anything that would jeopardize us all. I can see that you wish your father to go rushing back to Camazotz, and you could probably make him do this. Then where would we be? No, no. You must wait until you are more calm. Now, my darling, here is a robe for you to keep you warm and comfortable. Meg felt herself being lifted again, and a soft, light garment was slipped about her. Don't worry about your little brother. The tentacle's musical words were soft against her. We would never leave him behind in the shadow. But for now, you must relax. You must be happy. You must get well. The gentle words, the feeling that this beast would be able to love her no matter what she said or did, lapped Meg in warmth and peace. She felt a delicate touch of tentacle to her cheek, as tender as a mother's kiss. It is so long since my own small ones were grown and gone, the beast said. You are so tiny and vulnerable. Now I will feed you. You must eat slowly and quietly. I know that you are half starved, that you have been without food for far too long, but you must not rush things, or you will not get well. Something completely and indescribably and incredibly delicious was put to Meg's lips, and she swallowed gratefully. With each swallow, she felt strength returning to her body, and she realized that she had had nothing to eat since the horrible fake turkey dinner on Camazotz, which she had barely tasted. How long ago was her mother's stew? Time no longer had any meaning. How long does night last here? She murmured sleepily. It will be day again, won't it? Hush, the beast said. Eat, small one. During the coolness which is now, we sleep. And when you waken, there will be warmth again and many things to do. You must eat now and sleep, and I will stay with you. What should I call you, please? Meg asked. Well, now, first, try not to say any words for a moment. Think within your mind. Think of all the things you call people, different kinds of people. While Meg thought, the beast murmured to her gently. No, mother is a one name, and a father you have here. Not just friend, nor teacher, nor brother, nor sister. What is acquaintance? What a funny hard word. Aunt? Maybe. Yes, perhaps that will do. And you think of such odd words about me. Thing and monster. Monster. What a horrid sort of word. I really do not think that I am a monster. Beast? That will do. Aunt Beast. Aunt Beast. Meg murmured sleepily and laughed. Have I said something funny? Aunt Beast asked in surprise. Isn't Aunt Beast all right? Aunt Beast is lovely, Meg said. Please sing to me, Aunt Beast. Now, if it was impossible to describe sight to Aunt Beast, it would be even more impossible to describe the singing of Aunt Beast to a human being. It was a music even more glorious than the music of the singing creatures on Uriel. It was a music more tangible than form or sight. It had essence and structure. It supported Meg more firmly than the arms of Aunt Beast. It seemed to travel with her, to sweep her aloft in the power of song, so that she was moving in glory among the stars, and for a moment she too felt that the words of darkness and light had no meaning, and only this melody was real. Meg did not know when she fell asleep within the body of the music. When she wakened, Aunt Beast was asleep too, the softness of her furry, faceless head drooping. Night had gone, and a dull gray light filled the room. But she realized now that here on this planet, there was no need for color, that the grays and browns merging into each other were not what the beasts knew, and that what she herself saw was only the smallest fraction of what the planet was really like. It was she who was limited by her senses, not the blind beasts, for they must have senses of which she could not even dream. She stirred slightly, and Aunt Beast bent over her immediately. "What a lovely sleep, my darling. Do you feel all right?" "Oh, I feel wonderful," Meg said. "Aunt Beast, what is this planet called?" "Oh dear," Aunt Beast sighed. "I find it not easy at all to put things in the way your mind shapes them. You call where you came from Camazots?" "Well, it's where we came from, but it's not our planet." "You can call us Ixchel, I guess." Aunt Beast told her that. "We share the same sun as lost Camazots, but that, give thanks, is all we share." "Are you fighting the black thing?" Meg asked. "Oh yes," Aunt Beast replied. "In doing that we can never relax. We are the called according to his purpose, and whom he calls, them he also justifies. Of course, we have help, and without help it would be much more difficult." "Who helps you?" Meg asked. "Oh dear, it is so difficult to explain things to you, small one, and I know now that it is not just because you are a child. The other two are just as hard to reach into anything as you are. What can I tell you that will mean anything to you? Good helps us. The stars helps us. Perhaps what you would call light helps us. Love helps us. Oh, my child, I just cannot explain. This is something that you have to know or not know. But we look not at the things which are what you would call seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal." "Aunt Beast, do you know Mrs. Watson?" Meg asked with a sudden flooding of hope. "Mrs. Watson?" Aunt Beast was puzzled. "Oh, child, your language is so utterly simple and limited that it has the effect of extreme complication." Her four-armed tentacles waving were outflung in a gesture of helplessness. "Would you like me to take you to your father and to your Calvin?" "Oh, yes, please." "Let us go, then. They're waiting for you to make plans. And we thought you would enjoy eating together. What is it you call it? Oh, yes, breakfast. You will be too warm in that heavy fur now. I will dress you in something lighter, and then we will go." And as though Meg were a baby, Aunt Beast bathed her and dressed her, and this new garment, though it was made of a pale fur, was lighter than the lightest summer clothes on earth. Aunt Beast put one tentacled arm about Meg's waist and led her through long, dim corridors in which she could see only shadows of shadows until they reached a large column chamber. Shafts of light came in from an open skylight and converged about a huge round stone table. Here were seated several of the great beasts, and Calvin and Mr. Murray on a stone bench that circled the table. Because the beasts were so tall, even Mr. Murray's feet did not touch the ground, and lanky Calvin's long legs dangled as though he were Charles Wallace. The hall was partially enclosed by vaulted arches leading to long paved walks. There were no empty walls, no covering roofs, so that although the light was dull in comparison to Earth's sunlight, Meg had no feeling of dark or of chill. As Aunt Beast led Meg in, Mr. Murray slid down from the bench, hurried over to her, putting his arms about her tenderly. "They promised us you were all right," he said. While she had been in Aunt Beast's arms, Meg had felt safe and secure. Now, her worries about Charles Wallace and her disappointment in her father's human fallibility rose like a gorge in her throat. "I'm fine," she muttered, looking not at Calvin or her father, but at the beasts, for it was them she turned now for help. It seemed to her that neither her father nor Calvin were properly concerned about Charles Wallace. "Meg," Calvin said, "you've never tasted such food in your life. Come and eat." Aunt Beast lifted Meg up onto the bench and sat down beside her, then heaped a plate with food, strange fruits and breads that tasted unlike anything Meg had ever eaten. Everything was dull and colorless and unappetizing to look at, and at first, even remembering the meal that Aunt Beast had fed her the night before, Meg hesitated to taste, but once she had managed the first bite, she ate eagerly. It seemed that she would never have her fill again. The others waited until she slowed down. Then Mr. Murray said gravely, "We were trying to work out a plan to rescue Charles Wallace. Excuse me. Since I made such a mistake in tessering away from it, we feel that it would not be wise for me to try to get back to Camazotz, even alone. If I miss the mark again, I could easily get lost and wander forever from galaxy to galaxy. And that would be small help to anybody, least of all Charles Wallace." Such a wave of despondency came over Meg, she was no longer able to eat. "Our friends here," he continued, "feel that it was only the fact that I still wore the glasses your Mrs. Who gave you that kept me within this solar system. Here are the glasses, Meg, but I'm afraid the virtue has gone from them, and now they are only glass. Perhaps they were meant to help only once and only on Camazotz. Perhaps it was going through the black thing that did it." He pushed the glasses across the table at her. "These people know about tessering." Calvin gestured at the circle of great beasts, "but they can't do it onto a dark planet." "Have you tried to call Mrs. Whatsit?" Meg asked. "Not yet," her father answered. "But if you haven't thought of anything else, it's the only thing to do. Father, don't you care about Charles at all?" At that, Aunt Beast stood up, saying, "Child," in a reproving way. Mr. Murray said nothing, and Meg could see that she had wounded him deeply. She reacted as if she would have reacted to Mr. Jenkins. She scowled down at the table, saying, "We've got to ask them for help now. You're just stupid if you think we don't." Aunt Beast spoke to the others. "The child is distraught. Don't judge her harshly. She was almost taken by the black thing. Sometimes we can't know the spiritual damage it leaves, even when physical recovery is complete." Meg looked angrily around the table. The beasts sat there silent and motionless. She felt that she was being measured and found wanting. Calvin swung away from her and hunched himself up. "Hasn't it occurred to you that we've been trying to tell them about Our Ladies? What do you think we've been up to all this time, just stuffing our faces? Okay, you have a shot at it." "Yes, try, child." Aunt Bee seated herself again and pulled Meg up beside her. "But I do not understand this feeling of anger I sense in you. What is it about? There is blame going on and guilt, but why?" "Aunt Beast, don't you know?" "No," Aunt Beast said, "but this is not telling me about whoever they were wanting us to know. Try." Meg tried, blunderingly, fumblingly. At first, she described Mrs. Whatsit in her man's coat and multicolored shawls and scarves, Mrs. Who in her white robes and shimmering spectacles, Mrs. Witch in her peaked cap and black gown, quivering in and out of body. Then she realized that this was absurd. She wasn't describing them only to herself. This wasn't Mrs. Whatsit or Mrs. Who or Mrs. Witch. She might as well have described Mrs. Whatsit as she was when she took on the form of a flying creature in Uriel. "Don't try to use words," Aunt Bee said soothingly. "You're just fighting yourself and me. Think about what they are. This look doesn't help us at all." Meg tried again, but she could not get a visual concept out of her mind. She tried to think of Mrs. Whatsit explaining tessering. She tried to think of them in terms of mathematics. And every once in a while, she thought she felt a flicker of understanding from Aunt Beast or from one of the others, but most of the time, all that emanated from them was gentle puzzlement. "Angels!" Calvin shouted suddenly from across the table. "Guardian angels!" There was a moment's silence, and he shouted again, his face tense with concentration. "Messengers! Messengers of God!" "I thought for a moment," Aunt Bee started, then subsided, sighing. "No, it's not clear enough." "How strange it is that they can't tell us what they themselves seem to know," a tall, thin beast murmured. One of Aunt Bee's tentacled arms went around Meg's waist again. "They're very young, and on their Earth, as they call it, they never communicate with other planets. They revolve about all alone in space. Oh, the thin beast said. Aren't they lonely? Suddenly, a thundering voice reverberated throughout the great hall. We are here! And that's the end of that chapter. The next chapter, and I believe the last chapter, is called The Foolish and the Weak. So remember, today's focus is on predicting what you think the solution will be, and make sure you explain why you think that's going to be the solution. And with that, I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.